Every major tech company is racing to build the perfect synthetic voice. And they are all missing the same thing. You can't clone a voice in seconds, translate it into 50 languages, but you cannot make it sound genuinely afraid, or furious, or heartbroken. Not yet. My guest today spent 30 years in recording studios, making characters feel exactly those things, and just built the AI that might finally close that gap. Andrea, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jan. Welcome, and great to be here today with you, and super happy to start.
Fantastic. Andrea, in one sentence, what is Voiseed?
Yeah, Voiseed is a startup that is, let's say, building AI voices for production and AI dubbing that are able to, let's say, define emotion, to use this emotion to portray characters.
Mm-hmm. You built, in order to make these characters emotional, you built something called the emotional universe. It's based on Plutchnik's Wheel of Emotions and 30 years of audio experience. What is it? And why does a voice AI company like yours need a scientific model of emotions to exist?
I mean, it's a part of the scientific evolution. If you need to represent something, you need to understand what you're representing, and you need to understand what words means. Emotion is emotion. The expression is different.
So Plutchnik is talking about 8 core emotions. Can you show us how these emotions are, and how do our audience need to understand the emotional universe?
Plutchik is starting from the fact that we need to build an emotional model to represent human emotion, and it's a psychological emotion. The psychological emotion is what make ourselves the same as human beings. At the same time, language and cultures represent our emotion through different expression. So we need to study, starting from a common ground, how each emotion can be delivered differently with different cultures and languages. And this is why we need to build a data set.
Okay, got you. You brought something to visualize all this. Can you show us your screen, please?
My pleasure. Okay, so in essence, the model is based on, say, 8 core emotions that can be declined through different level of intensity. And these are basically defining a compass of emotion. And we call it emotion since in different language can generate different expression.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we can hear what is a fear expression.
Who was that? I don't feel safe here.
Or maybe sadness.
It's really a tough moment. I feel like everything is falling apart.
And finally, we can hear anger.
Enough! I won't tolerate this anymore.
So the tricky part is that once you have this, you need to be able to represent the same emotion with different expression in different language. And this is what voice cloning and emotional transfer can't do, since every territory, every language, every culture has different way to define and deliver emotion.
Andrea, 11 Labs. Everybody knows 11 Labs because it's an elephant in the room, let's say.
Yeah.
We have Google, we have Microsoft. What are they able to do and what they are not able to do at this moment? And where is the emotional compass fitting in here?
Yes, I mean, we need to define a language that is clear for everybody and can let the user understand how to, let's say, ask and to talk to an AI model and not to an actor. So sometimes, say, voice transfer and emotion transfers can work, some other not. So, and this has a strong bias with the data, with the technology you have behind it, and how you can bring this technology and this control to the users is all in one. So, for example, in the synthesizer era, nobody knew about the ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, release. Now, okay, every synthesizer has its basic model is a virtual model, and every musician can trigger and interact with the synthesizer with a symbolic modeling that can at least define the direction of where you want to go. Then, thousand ways to say the same things? Yes, but at least I can give direction that are common to everybody.
Andrea, this is like the core question is who are using these kind of expressive voices right now?
Yeah.
And, I think this is a difference between Voiseed and the 11 Labs, right? You have a different
Yeah.
target audience. Can you briefly
Yeah.
explain who are you targeting and what is the market value of what
Yeah.
you're delivering there?
Yeah, so the fact is that this is a new tool. You need to have new skills that can be using the new tool. And so it's important to find people that understand the language, understand the dubbing, understand the delivery of the voice, and can be used then an easy interface to make the direction put together and and realize and make them happen in the real session. So the value is creating a symbolic space in which you can direct your AI model, and you need to do in an organic way for multi-project, multi-environment, and multi-user environment, since we have multiple languages that need to be operated at the same time with a similar source assets. So you need to have a professional business-to-business area in which, the project managers can prepare assets and invite all the AI speech editors that then can deliver simultaneously the target element and the target language in the same environment. So this is a B2B professional environment in which AI speech editors are really the ones that can really make the magic happen.
Can you give me two examples, concrete examples of industries that are using right now this technology?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's now a huge amount of potential cases for corporate, since infomercial experience marketing and all this kind of stuff. At the same time, the level of the challenge is getting higher when you're, finding content from the media and entertainment market. There's highly expressive and and really need to represent motion and dialogues, interactive dialogues, very, very realistic way, and also the game market. These are the two areas in which we think that there's a lot of potential, and there's a lot of content without the voice. So the idea is to voice the unvoiced rather than to substitute everybody to a new technology. And also, let me say, it's very important to be, ethic and preserve existing market and skills with constant control and capability for voice cloning.
I love this one. We will get to this point a little bit later after we get a little bit more practical in this. So you have brought a video to us.
Yes.
We want to show our audience to get a feeling about what are we talking about and why the film industry or game industry will use these kind of tools competitively.
Absolutely. Let me share the screen very quickly and see what the level of quality we can reach. Can you see this? It's coming now.
School was great, all right?
What was that?
This is from Inside Out.
To act casual.
Riley, is everything okay?
Sir, she just rolled her eyes at us.
All right, make a show of force. I don't want to have to put the foot down.
No, not the foot.
Riley, I do not like this new attitude.
Oh, I will show you attitude, old man.
No, breathe.
What is your problem? Just leave me alone.
Sir, reporting high levels of sass.
Take it to DEF CON 2.
DEFCON 2.
I don't know where this disrespectful attitude came from.
You want a piece of this, Pops?
Yeah, well.
Prepare the foot.
Keys to safety position. Ready to launch on your command, sir.
Just shut up.
That's it. Go to your room.
The foot is down. The foot is down. Woo!
Good job, gentlemen. That could have been a disaster.
Well, that was a disaster.
This was no disaster at all. This was synthetic voices, right?
Yes, all these spoken dialogues are synthetic.
Incredible. If you have listened to that, that could have been from the original film. Totally cool. So, what is the technology behind the scenes to show how does it work? How do you create with Voiseed? How do you control emotions on a line by line basis, which is so incredible?
Yeah, I mean, this has been, say, put into our platform, Voiceed Studio, and we are now making a quick tour and with a special attention on how you can control each line and to get from each line the level of intensity that you want. Let me share the screen.
Perfect.
Okay.
So guys, what we are seeing right now is a little bit technical, so don't be afraid, but this is super interesting to understand how actually we can prepare and tune each line, each character of an indie game in different languages with the emotions we have learned about in the emotional compass and the universe. So, Andrea, I'm super excited to see how you at Voiseed have prepared the backend. And let's go for a ride.
Yeah, let's go behind the scene then.
Perfect.
Okay, so basically this is a Voiceed Studio application. It's very simple to, let's say, address. We have multiple, let's say, elements and multiple, let's say, area. One is for text-to-speech, so you start from the text, then you associate to the text the voice, and then you have each line of the script, and you define emotion for the line of the script until you are fine, okay, and you're okay with that, and you can download. With the media dubbing, you can instead ingest the video. The software can take care for doing, say, the speech to text, the diarization, and let's say, and the segmentation of the text. You can create a script template, and after the script template, you can go line by line after the translation and generate each line of the script. For the line dubbing, there is a third main area. You can do the same things by ingesting lines, typical for video games, and then use for each line the automatic casting, and then create the emotion that can be analyzed from the software and transferred to the target language.
Mm-hmm. Andrea, let me ask you one question, because just for our audience to understand the importance of this, how was it before? How did you produce in keynotes? You have seen thousands of games produced during your last 20 years before you started Voiseed. So what was the process before, and what is the change now?
Yeah. So basically the process is similar, but of course it's powered by AI. So you have anyway a script writer, you have a storytelling. So you need to define your script, and you need to define your characters and the character bio. The character bio is where all the information about the characters that populating the story are held. At the same time, every story need to have a storyboard, so you can have level by level everything well organized. Then you have a voice director, you have the producer, you go into the studio, have the actor in the studio, and record each line separately.
Right.
Okay. And then you put them together and you put them in the game engine. This is the game engine. Then you, define the audio integration, and then you go to the testing, and then you stabilize the level, and then deliver the level. Mm-hmm. The change now is that you have a system by which you can ingest a script and easy can define the casting, okay? And then you can associate the voice for every characters, and then you can go into the virtual studio and associate emotion through a type of language that is not, say, like the one that you have with the humans, since humans are the best, of course. But at the same time, we are trying to fill the gap between the idea of the producer and what is the result of the AI, and make it as predictable as possible. That's the thing.
And talking about costs, because going into a studio is a super intense, cost-intense thing. What is, just to have an idea about the relation between what it costs to go to a studio for second line or third line character in a video game, or to produce it virtually? What is the cost downgrading?
Yeah, I think the impact is consistent. But of course, to create good quality output, you need to have human in the loop.
Yeah.
Since automatic dubbing is something, human curated dubbing is something. And we are talking about human curated dubbing. Okay. And for sure, the platform is working with credits. You can inject credits, and then you have credit consumption rules that according to how many generation you want to have of the line and how much intense you want to have, say, the casting, and maybe you can integrate some voice cloning and integrate the voice clone of real actors into the platform with consent, control, and compensation. So you can really define a production landscape that is much more articulated. And once you get it, it's always accessible. So it's not just the first session of recording, but as you know, in the games and in general, you have multiple retakes. Right. And every time you need to do retakes, you need to pay the studio, you need to pay the actor, you need to pay everybody. So of course you can craft a deal with the actors for potential retakes. And there's a kind of legislation going in that direction. Right. At the same time, what you can do, you can have access and you can speed up, let's say, the production, having multiple people attached, not for just a source version, but once you have the source, the time you go and it takes to make also the target version is much, much shorter. And this is a speed. So how can you value speed? Is really complicated, but time to market, is very essential, yes, as usual. Yeah.
And this suit is built for internationalization.
Yes.
So it's not only the English version, but every language you want to drive your game or your production, your media asset into, right? Let's dive into a little bit more of the editor before we discuss these ethical questions, the cloning, and all this stuff.
Yes, let's make a quick tour. We are here, and of course we have the three main areas. We said we have the voice library. You have the possibility to use the platform through an API, external API, and of course you can integrate translation system. That we can't forget that to do good audio, you need to have a good script, and the good script comes from, let's say, good writing, a good translation, and a good adaptation in terms of cultural adaptation, and of course also in terms of timing adaptation. Since when you have a media, the time of the spoken language, has to be preserved through international version. Mm-hmm. At the same time, you can have the user mapping, you can have, say, a good monitoring of the usage, and of course the balance to push credits into the platform. Right. But let's dive very quickly into this. Tell me. Jan.
Before one question, the API, I saw you are now connected to Blackbird, right?
Yeah.
You have a connection with Blackbird, MemoQ, and other TMS in the market?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, we just had this interview about Blackbird with the CEO of Blackbird here as well. So
Bruno.
This connects a little bit our videos here because this is an ecosystem that everything is connected and where content flows from one side to another.
Yes, so this is another relevant aspect. So we are not alone on this planet. And we are not alone in this industry. So to find synergies is definitely super interesting. And this is why we were teaming up with relevant stakeholders. And Blackbird is one of that. So you can access the API and the voices that you can define in the platform directly through the API. Similar, you can say start your project, you can then translate your project with MemoQ, and then you can re-ingest and then populate the output lines through the application. So there are multiple type of integration, and we are moving in this direction very quickly as much as possible. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. So if you're ready, I can little dive into the project so you can have a quick look about what has been done.
And how we can control a line. Give me us a line that we modify, where we can change the voice visually. That would be great.
Okay, so we have the project. The project has multiple batches. Okay, we have batch 1. For the project, you can control the casting of the project, the glossary of the project, since we can't forget about one key element. Humans can have the better control of the pronunciation, but the machine need to have really briefed very carefully about how to control the pronunciation glossary, not just the translation glossary. So you have the possibility to define the pronunciation glossary, and every batch of the project is basically mapped into this pronunciation glossary environment. Then you have the team, so you can invite multiple people from multiple languages to go through the team. But let's step into the batch. Okay, and you can have all the languages here, and then you can also modify the language, the glossary of each language. You can reduce the casting of the script, but let's go into the real place in which all the magic happens. And this is a place in which you have your script mapped line by line. Okay.
Yes.
And all these line by line are basically associated to every characters. Okay. And every character has its own line. And then you can have multiple features. The multiple features are basically related to, let's say, text mapping, posing, and pronunciation control. Then you can have the generation of the take. Then you can control the tempo and the generation parameters. And then you can control here the magic, all the different panel of emotion. So this is the panel of emotion by which every line you can trigger and associate the emotion, and you can control the level of intensity. This is a very important element. At the same time, we also have other features to control the output. You can have the full conditioning, so extracting the source emotion and transfer, applying this transfer to the specific casting that you already been selected ethically. And then you can also have DILO, so you can have say it as you can, say it yourself, okay? And you can talk to the computer and then use your voice to drive the performance. But this is the panel of the emotional delivery. Yeah.
Oh, guys, this is incredible. I mean, this is like looking into the future. This is behind the doors of what you can do with an artificial synthetic voice nowadays. So yeah, let's before we discuss all the ethical and the legal issues around this spectrum, show us how would you modify like one voice. Let's get to an example.
Let's see.
School's great, all right?
What was that? I thought you said we were going to add casual.
So,
Riley, is everything...
for example, let's take this line. In the tool, you can do, like the studio, multiple takes, and you can save the take history. So if you go into the take history, you can say, okay, this is a standard line for narration, okay? And this is how they sound.
What was that? I thought you said we were going to act casual.
Or if you wanted more, let's say, fear, you can change it. You can assign to fear, and then this is a different output of the delivery triggered by the system.
What was that? I thought you said we were going to add casual.
And then we can go on, and then we can also do other things that can be super interesting, since you can change the inference setting to make it more stable, okay, more expressive, or if you want to do multiple takes, if it can be similar or a little bit different. So like in the studio, this is a place in which you do multiple takes, you tweak the takes, and then eventually, if you like this first part of the take and the second part of the second take, then you can get back to the history, and then you can edit the history with a little audio editor inside the platform, so you can put the lines together. And this is happening systematically with the producer in the studio. So this is, let's say, the core of the platform, where the AI speech editor can dance and finalize the things. And then you can go back to the asset management place, and then you can download assets and then produce the voice files and push them into the game with the mixing, without mixing, and all this kind of level of DB controls. So basically to emulate the behavior of a virtual studio. Yes.
Andrea, I see here the musician playing.
Yeah, sorry.
This is like a symphony, right? So the one who controls the tool and the emotions must have a feeling for the situation, playing around. It's like painting, right? So
Yeah.
it depends on what the editor wants to achieve. You can play around and you go through the script again and again, and you create this perfect
Yeah.
scene, right?
Yeah. I mean, you got it. And of course, the important thing is that you need to have people that have different skills.
Yes.
It's not just the language. And the language, is, of course, is essential since the words are super important.
Yeah.
But how the words are delivered makes the real difference. So you need to have the possibility to craft the translation, craft the adaptation, and do fine tuning, let's say, at best, the text to create the easy lines that can be delivered for the users. And of course, we need to remember that each type of content is different. So the level of attention you need to put into a line has to be somehow related to the customer expectation and to the audience. So, and there's some content that is quick and easy, you do not expect to have high quality. So the dance is to try to understand what is the content tiering that you want to achieve. Then you need to build a team. You need to put proper attention and budget. So if you have easy content, okay, that is basically given for granted is not the bulk of the content that you pay for, definitely the scale is different. Okay.
What is, give us an example. What is easy content for you? What is difficult content for you?
I mean, easy content is a kind of info content for a training courses in which you are not focusing on emotion. Okay. You need to be trained on something. Of course, the train has to be interesting, but I don't have to cry and say, oh my God, I buy this thing since I want to be trained. I want something that for entertainment, that's different. So I pay for a game.
Right.
Maybe if it's not a free-to-play game, or maybe you can use it as a free-to-play game, then you can buy internal items. Or you need to pay for a TV show, you need to pay for something. So it really depends. And then you have a tons of channels that are coming out, a tons of distribution platforms. So really you need to find the type of content that is right for the platform and your audience, and then use the voice to engage more with attention. Yeah.
Voiseed is targeting translation companies specifically, right?
Yeah.
So translation companies on the one hand side and corporates directly on the other side, right?
So the target is different because the publisher has the need to create contents at a high quality level to deliver. Translation company or the classical, let's say LSPs or language service integrators need to have the service performed at a professional level and scaling, okay, and then definitely can be used the one that are helping the brands. And also you have other platforms that need to have APIs and use the technology within their platforms. So for having text to speech, for having, let's say, audio description, and for having, let's say, dubbing. So the pool of API that a platform owner can have is different, but we can have technology. We can have definitely the platform if you really need the platform, or we can also implement how you want to create your AI strategy. So the problem is how we are going, say, to meet the need of AI voice first market. Is your brand ready to go with the AI first, voice first strategy? This is what we can help, since it's not just the tech. Is your environment, is your type of content, is your need that you have, and you need to have a customized solutions. So, of course, you can have the platform, you can sell to millions to do the little things, fine. That's definitely good usage. But if you really want to go into the B2B, the challenges are increasingly, and the sensibility for ethical and safe and secure treatment of your data. Okay.
Let's dive into
very
this
important.
area. This is super interesting because it has such it's such a topic right now. We see like people like Taylor Swift is right now trying to register her voice as a trademark. This is an open case. It's not yet decided. But we see also the big platforms like Sony, like Universal Music, and all they are doing joint ventures. They're trying to build platforms together with AI generated AI voice generators, and others try to block it. So we're just in this moment, this crucial moment in time where we decide how to use voice, what is about cloning, and who's the owner of the voice. So, Andrea, what is your take on ethical production and voice cloning?
I mean, this is a very important question, Jan, and thank you for sharing. Since coming from the production industry, every actor has his voice, and they are definitely the one that own the voice. Also is very protected by GDPRs, and I see that legislation is coming more and more into this direction.
Right.
So we need to have an ethical usage. What does it mean, ethical usage? Ethical usage, it means how you build your data set. How you use your data set is a language data set or a voice data set. So I'm using and creating voices from this data. And if I do voice and not language, do I have constant control and compensation?
Right.
Second element is how you plug these features into the platform. If I build a platform that anybody can buy and can do voice cloning, yes, I can do some kind of, let's say, control, but I'm delivering a voice cloning platform to everybody. And this has been, of course, a booster of multiple startups. Okay, as we know, we decided to do not go that way from scratch. The third one is the contract. And the contract has been crafted to try to protect the content of the IP owner. So, of course, if you are using the content that other people using the platform is ingesting, then they need to know. They need to know what they do with the things. So you need to be extremely clear that, the training content is a training content to train the platform. Then, if you are using your IP content in the platform, I do not use your data to improve and train my, say, models. And this has to be written very clear. Okay? And it has to be monitored and audited, by the way.
It's curious because I just read that how synthetic content works on YouTube, and the discussion. Well, we're here on YouTube. We are producing content, and faceless streams are growing as hell. That it's like 30%, more or less 30% of all videos created on YouTube are synthetic. Are generated videos.
Yeah.
So the impact YouTube, I was researching about the impact of synthetic content, AI content on YouTube, and how they sort it out. They are not saying, hey, you can't use it or you do use it. They simply put it in the YouTube content contributor program, in the producer program. So monetization is out of scope if you use AI general content that is indistinguishable from other stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's a little bit broad description, but it goes deep to the point that if there's no creativity, human creativity behind, it won't monetize. And that is a huge thing on YouTube.
So this is happening since you have a new technology. With the new technology, can create new platform. This new platform can create new content. And of course, they go to the platform, to the YouTube and to Spotify. So you now have the invasion of synthetic content that can be more or less curated. But this is coming, and definitely this is why we are in a era of transformation. And then something that can be done by the regulatory system. At the same time, we need to have ethical principle we need to build example in which we can make business in an ethical and respectful way, telling clearly to the audience what is fully synthetic, what is human curated, and what is fully human. So we are inventing new categories that as much as they are flowing to the users need to know. And this is a wider conversation. See, what is the truth?
Right.
What is the fate? And definitely, say, to having a tool for cloning voices is a kind of fake news generator. So how you can control it? You can need to have an AI that is trying to find if this is a fake AI or not. So it's the battle of the agents. Okay, so someone is creating and content for synthetic, with synthetic feeling, and generating synthetic, let's say, content and processes. Some other will discover. So we are projecting in a virtual world a different type of conversation that need to somehow to land somewhere. But this is faster, and when you are giving these things to agents, it's becoming also less predictable.
Right.
So definitely it's important, but we have one light. We need to give an example to try to make good business in an ethical way for all the stakeholders.
Right.
And the users, of course, and that would be super, super important.
And
but
the legal,
we are the one.
The legal contracts behind all these synthetic voices, super important. Andrea, my last question to you.
Sure.
Because we could talk about this all the time.
Yes.
Because this is so super interesting and it's so important. It's a market to grow to 20 billion in the next 4 years.
Yes, the market is
just incredible, and with a growth rate of 30% per year. 30% per year.
Yes. So this is basically the projection of multiple institute of research. The prediction is 20 billion in 2030 and a 30% growth. And of course, this will be basically specializing in multiple areas and multiple verticals.
Which are? What are the verticals you are observing?
I mean, we are observing that not just the scripted content is coming out, and we are seeing scripted content, but this is real-time generated content. So voice agents. Voice agents are invading all the call centers and all, and the battle will be becoming tough and tough. But this is not searching the best emotion. You simply need to interact and find information.
Right.
Okay? And nobody is calling the call center to enjoy the conversation. You are calling the call center since you need to fix a problem.
Exactly.
And this is, so definitely the real-time voice agent market is super important. At the same time, this is crafting, escalating to virtual personas. And then the landing point will be virtual persona and robotics. And embodied systems. Embodied systems are the one that will contribute to the growth, since we are talking and humans are talking. Written language came after, but we start talk and then produce the language. So what is the easiest way to communicate? We can communicate with the voice, and we can communicate between humans and with devices. So the area of improvement is really, really huge. And yeah, there's a lot to say more. Yeah.
This is part of a new a follow-up episode on synthetic voices. With me today has been Andrea Ballista, CEO of Voiseed. He invented Voiseed in 2020. That was before ChatGPT, before all this. So this is a pioneer of technology. So one last recommendation for our audience. What should they focus on in the next few years?
I mean, the landscape of the technology is changing so quickly, so it's really complicated to find your path. And the market is growing in omnidirectional. We will have pitfalls. We will have area that will grow. And of course, large investments are coming, and this will accelerate the growth more and more. But at the end of the day, we can't forget that we are humans. We love to talk with other humans, create empathy. And we know that also machines are starting to create empathy in a certain sense. But we need to have companions. We need to have the possibility to get a better word. So definitely to use this type of machines and new type of development for a good usage, respectful of the humans, and we have seen now the Pope has been coming out with AI. So what are you talking about?
Absolutely.
So yeah, and this is a massive thing, is a massive sign. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, out there, go experience the emotional universe yourself. We will put the link in the description of this episode.
Yep.
Of course, reach out to Andrea Ballista, CEO of Voiseed, if you have any doubts. If you want to learn more about how to become a voice AI editor,
Yeah.
there will
AI
be
speech
an
editor.
upcoming training. I understand.
Sure.
We
Yeah.
will leave it in the notes. And of course, just to be online, follow Andrea on LinkedIn. And that's it. Thanks a lot for another cool episode of Language Tech Unbox today with Andrea Ballista.
Thank you so much, Jan, and everybody. It's been a pleasure to be with you, and hope you enjoy this few minutes together.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
All the super best.
See
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
To the next
Thank you.
video.
Bye. Ciao. Thank you.